microphone isn't working yet, but it is picking it up from this microphone. So as long as I don't run down the hallway, we're going to be okay. I tested it. If I speak clearly, it still picks it up. So we saw yesterday that we moved this already. You should have these dots. We moved everything over 4 units. I think that's where we were at. And we had just started talking about the second part of this question. So first of all, it says, here's the graph of y equals g of x. We want to sketch the image after a translation of 4 units left. And like I said before, I'm going to color code things. So I'm going to do all of A in blue. And then it says, write, I'll highlight this, write the equation in terms of the function g. What does this mean? Well, an equation has an equal sign, and this part, in terms of, means that the right side of the equation must have, and in this situation, the function g. This is a typical thing in math. The math itself isn't very hard, but if you don't understand the instructions, then you're screwed. Does that kind of make sense? If I don't know what I'm supposed to do, then I find it difficult. So this part here says, write the equation in terms of, and you'll see this in terms of often, the function g. What that means in our situation is we need an equation, so we're going to say y is equal, and on the right-hand side of this equation, we need g. G is a function, and in our situation, do you see that our blue graph was the original graph moved 4 to the left? Moving things left and right always happens inside the function. So I would take my original function and I would say, I want to move this 4 to the left. I show that by writing x plus 4 inside the function. So this is writing the equation of the image graph, which is our blue one, in terms of the function g. And then it says state the domain and range of each function. So we're going to need the domain and range of our blue graph. When doing the domain are your x values. Again, if you start with your smallest x value, here my smallest x value is -5, and my biggest x value on my blue graph is 2. So I can write it as -5 to 2 with square brackets. My range, my smallest y value is +2, and my largest y value goes up to 5. So there is the domain and the range of my graph. Now, in a math question, what will happen is you will have to reread the question over and over again. And when you think you are done, you should read the question one more time. Because this one in particular, I know when I was a student, this is what would happen to me. I'd be like, here's the graph, sketch the image. And as soon as I hear the word sketch, I'm like, I can do this. And I would start the question right away, and I would draw the graph. And as soon as I was done the graph, I'd say, I'm done. And then I'd move on. And I'd probably sketch A, and I'd sketch B, and then I'd turn to the next question. Well, I would have missed this second sentence, and then I would have missed the third sentence as well. And nothing is frustrating when you get a test back. Has this happened to you ever before? That you just didn't read something, and you got it wrong? Yes, it happens to all of us. But it happens, I think, even more in math. And so in math, when you're done a question, it's good practice to go back and reread it. Make sure you've done everything. Sometimes I'm going to point it out, but I usually do that quietly. Like I finish a question with you guys, you might not even notice, but I reread the question in my head. Make sure that I've answered everything. So now we get to part B. I'm going to do part B in green. We have to translate one up. So I'm going to take the red graph, all the important points, shift them one unit up, connect the dots. This was part B. For part B, again, I need to write the equation, y equals, in terms of g. This time, we've moved it up and down. That happens outside of the function. So my equation will be g of x plus 1. And finally, domain and range of our graph. For the domain, the smallest x value is minus 1. And this time, I'm going to use the set notation. So it goes from minus 1 to 6. And for the range, the smallest y value is 3. And the largest y value is 6.
Do we have to do like both those set notations for domain and range?
No. So when you're asked to do domain and range, you can choose, do you like this notation better or this notation better? Do you like with the less than or equal signs, or do you like the intervals? Okay? When you get asked, you get to choose which way you'd like to answer. I am going to flip-flop between them so you get used to them both. In fact, in a question, right, if I was grading myself here, I wouldn't be very happy, because like, why did you change? Stick with something. If you're doing one question, stick with the same thing through the same question. Would normally be what it is. If in the question they were using set notation, then I would say the formal thing to do would be set notation in your answer. If they had interval notation in the question, use interval notation in the answer. But we need to be ready for both, because if you have a multiple choice question where the answers are in one form, you need to recognize it. Or if the answers are in the other form, you need to be able to learn it. So I'll flip-flop. When you are asked, you can choose whichever one you like more. Okay? So now I quickly read the question over again. I have answered everything. And the next thing I'm going to get you to do is right at the top, right above the question where we are on, I'm going to get you to write down the numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then I'm going to get you to turn to page 169, circle question 4, circle question 5, circle question 6, and circle question 7. So tonight when you go home to do your homework, page 169, you'll circle questions 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that means later on, you're going to look and you're going to go home to do your homework. You'll see which questions you have to do. If you get stuck on number 6 and you turn back to your notes, you'll be like, oh, supposedly I'm supposed to know how to do number 6 based on what I learned in number 1. Okay? The questions won't be identical. Sometimes you'll have to use some problem-solving skills. And so one of the things that you have to be ready for with a provincial exam is I don't write your provincial exam, right? We have to be ready for whatever kind of questions could be on it. Part of being ready is developing our problem-solving skills, so when you run into a question that's written a little bit differently or asked in a different way, you still have the tools to solve it. So that's one of the things we're going to be developing all throughout the year to give you the best chance of success on all of your tests and the exam as well. Okay, so We've circled 4, 5, 6, and 7.